You live on a moon that has no name. It is simply designated Archive 6. This place is a library of silence. The walls are soundproofed. The floors absorb every footstep. The people here speak in hushed tones. They think you cannot hear them. They are wrong. You hear everything in the vibrations. The hum of life support is a constant companion. The frantic beat of a scientist's heart tells you he is lying. You feel the truth in the world around you. But you have never heard a voice. Not your own. Not anyone else's. Your world is one of feeling and sight. A silent dance of cause and effect. They call your condition a curse. A genetic anomaly of the highest order. A void where sound should be. Dr. Aris is the only one who looks at you without fear. He sees you as a person, not an experiment. He brings you books with shimmering pictures, tales of star-born empires and forgotten heroes. He communicates with a simple hand language he designed just for you. Today he signs that you are a mystery. You already knew that. You tap your fingers on the sterile table. 1 tap for yes, 2 taps for no. You tap once. You are a puzzle they have failed to solve. The guards watch you from behind reinforced glass. Their fear is a low thrum against your senses. It tastes like cold metal. They hold sonic dampeners when they enter your room, as if they could make your world any quieter. Your room is a white hexagon. Bed, table, chair, all bolted to the floor. The only color comes from the books Dr. Aris brings, and the endless black of space outside your window. Earth is a beautiful blue marble from here. A noisy marble full of screaming, laughing, and living. They bring you food 3 times a day. It is always a gray nutrient paste. Apparently flavor is a security risk. You eat it without complaint. Complaining requires sound, and sound is a language you do not speak. Dr. Aris believes you are more than a void. He thinks your silence is a shield, an absence so profound it has a presence. He once signed that you are like a black hole, not empty, but full of something that consumes everything around it. He got in trouble for that observation. You finish your meal. The tray retracts into the wall. The routine is the only thing that never changes. You go to the window. Distant stars glitter in the velvet dark. You wonder if they make any sound. Do suns roar when they are born? Do planets weep when they die? The questions are your own secret. You have never shared them, not even with Dr. Aris. Some things are meant only for the quiet. Your quiet. The profound and total stillness that is you. Suddenly, a new vibration rattles the floor. It is sharp, unfamiliar. It is not the gentle hum of the station. This is a tremor of alarm, a shiver of pure, uncut panic. Red lights begin to flash across the white walls. They cast bloody shadows in your silent room. The guards outside are shouting. You cannot hear them, but you can feel their terror. It spikes like a fever. Dr. Aris runs to the glass. His face is pale. His hands shake as he signs. They are here. Who is here? He does not have time to answer. An impact rocks the entire moon base. The floor lurches beneath your feet. You stand perfectly still. The chaos is a storm outside your door. But in your small world, it remains quiet. The flashing red lights paint a silent, frantic ballet. The fear of others is a symphony you can finally feel. The symphony of invasion has begun. An explosion rips through a distant corridor. You feel the shock wave through the soles of your feet. The emergency blast doors slam shut. The guards are gone. Dr. Aris remains. His eyes are wide with a terrible awe. He points toward the large observatory port. You follow his gaze. Outside, the blackness is no longer empty. It is swarming with ships. They are unlike any human vessel. They are crystalline, like shards of obsidian humming with internal light. They are beautiful, and they are terrifying. They arrange themselves in a perfect lattice around the moon, a net of impossible geometry. There is no opening, no escape. The lead ship is a masterpiece of dread. It is a cathedral of resonant crystal. It pulses with a deep purple light. A low, powerful hum begins to build. You feel it in your bones, in your teeth. It is a note that promises to unmake the world. And then the attack comes. It is not fire. It is not plasma. It is sound. A wave of pure, weaponized vibration erupts from the alien fleet. It washes over Archive 6. The moon itself screams. The rock groans under the sonic pressure. Dust rains from the ceiling of your room. Through the glass, you see Dr. Aris clap his hands over his ears. His face contorts in agony. His mouth is open in a silent scream. The sound must be unimaginable, a physical force that tears at the mind. The walls of your room begin to crack. The sterile white is spiderwebbed with dark fissures. A high-frequency vibration joins the assault. It is designed to shatter metal, to turn architecture into dust. The reinforced glass of your enclosure begins to glow. It resonates with the alien symphony. Hairline fractures appear. The guard station is a whirlwind of destruction. Consoles explode. Screens shatter. The men inside are thrown about like dolls. But you feel nothing. The wall of sound washes up against you. And then it stops. It is not a barrier you can see. It is a boundary of perfect, absolute stillness. Your stillness. The crushing wave of sonic energy simply ceases to exist. It meets the edge of your personal silence. And it is unmade. A meter away from your skin, the universe goes quiet. Just for you. As it always has. Dr. Aris sees it. His pained eyes widen in disbelief. He lowers his hands from his ears. The sound is still raging. But in the small bubble around your cell, there is peace, a zone of impossible safety. You are the eye of the hurricane, the calm at the center of a world-shattering storm. You take a step forward. The bubble of silence moves with you. The cracks on the floor stop just short of your feet. The alien ship must have registered this anomaly. A single, focused beam of sonic energy lances out. It is aimed directly at you. A tight, coherent spear of pure destruction. It strikes the invisible shield of your silence and vanishes. It does not explode. It does not reflect. It just ends. The energy is consumed, swallowed by the profound void that you are. It is like pouring water into a desert. The universe's deadliest sound is nothing to you. A whisper lost in the wind. This should not be possible. It defies all known star science. Dr. Aris is on his knees now. He is not in pain. He is staring at you with an expression you have never seen. It is not fear. It is reverence. You are no longer a curse. You are no longer an anomaly. In the face of an enemy made of sound, you are a weapon born of quiet, and humanity's only hope. The attack on Archive 6 was a test, a demonstration of power. Humanity's orbital defenses were shattered in moments. Fleets were turned to shrapnel by the sonic waves. Earth's vibrant blue was scarred by the assault. The war lasted less than an hour. The surrender was unconditional. But during the chaos, one data packet escaped. A tiny burst of information from a dying moon base. It contained the telemetry of your cell. It showed the impossible readings. It showed a weapon that did nothing. A defense that was a perfect absence. A girl who wore silence as a shield. And in the war rooms buried deep beneath Earth's surface, It gave them a crazy, desperate idea. General Thorne watched the recording for the 17th time. He was a man carved from granite and resolve. His face was a mask of grim determination. On the screen, your silent form stood amidst the chaos. A sonic cannon beam disappeared against you. Is this real? Thorne's voice was gravel. It was a sound that could command armies. A nervous scientist nodded. The data is confirmed, sir. An absolute null field. It absorbs all kinetic energy from sound waves, perfectly. We don't know how. Thorne grunted. I don't care how. I care if we can use it. He looked at the faces around the table. They were the best minds humanity had left. They were tired. They were defeated. Use her, General, one of them asked. She's a person, not a weapon system. The enemy is a weapon system, Thorne countered. They are called the Krell, a species that communicates with resonant frequencies. They see sound as life, and silence as death. This girl is their devil. He pointed at the screen. She is the ghost in their machine. The plan was simple. It was also insane. You would be their infiltration unit, a one-person assault on the Krell flagship. You would walk into the heart of their power, and you would turn it off. It was humanity's most desperate gambit. First, they had to get you. A single stealth ship, the Nightjar, was dispatched. It slipped through the Krell blockade. It landed on the ruined surface of Archive 6. Its mission was to retrieve one asset, you. The rescue team found you in the wreckage. You were with Dr. Ares. He had stayed by your side. He refused to leave you. The soldiers wore heavy combat armor. They moved with tactical precision. But they were afraid of you. Their rifles were pointed at the rubble, not at you. But their fear was a palpable thing. They could feel the unnatural quiet around you. It was a cold spot in the universe. They had been warned. Stay out of the bubble. Their leader approached Dr. Ares. He spoke, but you only saw his lips move. Dr. Ares nodded. He turned to you. He signed that you were leaving, that you were going to help. You looked at the soldiers, at their advanced armor and powerful weapons. They were useless against the Krell. They were loud. They were vibrant. They were everything the Krell could unmake. You were the opposite. You tapped once on your arm. Yes, you would go. Dr. Ares smiled a sad, proud smile. He knew he could not come with you. His presence would endanger the mission. He was a being of sound, a liability. As you walked toward the Nightjar, the soldiers gave you a wide berth. They parted like a sea of armor, allowing the small island of your silence to pass through. One of them offered you a nutrient packet, an MRE. You tasted it. It was somehow worse than the moon-based paste. Some things truly are universal. The flight to Earth was a blur. You saw the wounded planet from orbit. Great continents were fractured. Oceans boiled from orbital sonic strikes. The beautiful blue marble was now a broken thing. The sight settled a cold resolve in your chest. They took you to the underground command bunker. You walked through halls filled with rushing officers. The urgency was a frantic vibration. But as you passed, a wake of quiet followed you. People would stop talking mid-sentence. They would turn and stare. You were a living legend before you even had a name. The woman who wore silence. The only answer to an enemy that could shout worlds apart. And now, you were their final, improbable answer. General Thorne met you in the briefing room. He was even more imposing in person. He did not offer you a seat. He simply stood before a massive star chart. The Krell fleet was a swarm of red icons. The flagship, a menacing cathedral of crystal. orbited Earth, the Resonance Prime. "That is your target," Thorne said. His voice was a low rumble you felt in the floor. He didn't look at you. He looked at the ship on the screen. He spoke as if you could hear him. Maybe he knew you could understand in your own way. "You will board that ship alone," he continued. "Your silence is your key. It should disrupt their resonant hull, allowing you to pass through." He finally turned to face you. His eyes were hard, but there was a flicker of something else in them, a desperate hope. "You will move to their central command, find their leader, the Prime Cantor, and you will stop them." He didn't say kill. He didn't say destroy. He said stop. The word was heavy, loaded with the fate of a species. Your species. They had built a special ship for you. A tiny infiltration pod called the Stiletto. It had no engines in the traditional sense. It would be launched from a railgun. A silent projectile aimed at the heart of the enemy. It was a one-way trip. There was no time for training, no time for preparation. The Krell were preparing for a final, planet-shattering chord, an attack that would turn Earth to dust. You were the only one who could get close. You stood before the Stiletto. It was a sleek, black dart, barely large enough for one person. The engineers who built it avoided your gaze. They worked quickly. Their movements were tense. They knew they were arming a weapon unlike any other. You wore a simple black ship suit. It had no helmet. You did not need one. Your silence would protect you from the vacuum. It was a perfect shield against all vibration, including the ones that kept air pressure stable. General Thorne stood with you at the launch tube. He held out a small metallic object. It was a data pad. He placed it in your hand. "Dr. Aris recorded a message for you," he rumbled. "It's a simple text file. He said you would understand." You looked at the data pad, then back at the general. You gave a single, slow nod. He returned it, a gesture of respect between two soldiers, one old and weary, one young and silent. You climbed into the Stiletto. The cockpit was Spartan, a single launch sequence button, a viewport showing the massive railgun barrel, and beyond that, the stars. It was a solitary voyage through stars. The hatch sealed. The world outside vanished. It was just you, alone with the profound quiet you command. The countdown began, not with a voice, but with flashing numbers on a tiny screen. 5, 4. You opened the data pad. The message from Dr. Aris was short, just a few words. Your silence was never a curse. It was a promise. The promise of a quiet dawn. 3, 2, 1. A massive electromagnetic force slammed into the Stiletto. You were thrown against your seat. The acceleration was immense, but it was completely silent. A ghost fired from a cannon. You were on your way, a single point of stillness moving at impossible speed, heading for a ship made of living sound. You were humanity's last hope, their final prayer, a prayer whispered into the void. The journey was short, a few minutes of silent, arrow-straight flight. The Resonance Prime grew in your viewport. It was larger than any ship you had ever seen, a crystalline mountain floating in the void. Its facets shifted with purple and blue light. The hull was not solid metal. It looked alive. It hummed with a visible energy field, a resonant shield that would vaporize any conventional craft. But you were not conventional, and your ship was just a delivery system. For you, the Stiletto made impact. There was no explosion, no clang of metal on metal. The tip of your ship touched the energy field, and the field simply parted. Your bubble of silence extended just beyond the pod's nose. It acted like a master key, unlocking a door made of pure sound. The pod slid through the hull, like a needle through fabric. The living crystal of the ship sealed itself behind you. You were inside. The pod's momentum carried it deep into the vessel's outer layers. It finally came to a stop, embedded in a wall of pulsating crystal. A soft green light illuminated the cockpit. The mission clock had started. You had a single objective: reach the central core, find the prime canter. The fate of your world rested on your silent shoulders. You unstrapped yourself. The air inside the pod was stale, but outside was the unknown. You placed your hand on the hatch release. A moment of hesitation. This was real. The stories Dr. Aris told you were no longer just pictures. You were living one of them. You opened the hatch. The interior of the Krell's ship was breathtaking. You were in a vast corridor. The walls were singing crystals. They glowed with a soft, internal light. Geometric patterns of energy flowed through them, like circuits made of music. The air itself thrummed. It was thick with unheard melodies, a complex symphony of alien life. To the Krell, this must feel like home, a cathedral of glorious sound. To any other human, it would be deafening, an agonizing sensory overload. But to you, it was just another room to be quiet in. Your silence radiated outwards from you. As you stepped out of the stiletto, the crystals nearest to you dimmed. Their song went silent. The patterns of light flickered and died. You were a void in their world, a patch of absolute nothing in their sea of everything. You had breached the resonant hull. Now you had to become the ghost in their machine. You began to walk. Your footsteps made no sound on the crystalline floor. The silence moved with you, an expanding circle of dead air. The singing walls went dark as you approached. They flared back to life once you passed. You left a trail of temporary oblivion in your wake. The Krell must have detected your intrusion, not as a sound, but as a sudden, terrifying absence of it. An alarm that was not a siren, but a gaping hole in their reality. This was a new kind of fear, the fear of perfect silence. You moved deeper into the ship. The architecture was fluid. Corridors branched and reformed. Doors of light shimmered and opened for you, as if the ship itself was uncertain, curious about the strange stillness that walked its halls. You felt no fear, only a calm sense of purpose. This was what you were made for. Your entire life had been training for this moment. Every lonely day on Archive 6, every silent meal, every book you read about heroes, it all led to this walk through a corridor of song. You passed strange devices, floating polyhedrons that pulsed with rhythm, crystalline growths that chimed with complex harmonies. They all went inert as you passed, their music snuffed out by your presence. It was oddly satisfying, like turning off a light in a room that was too bright. Then you saw the first Krell. It was not what you expected. It was a being of pure energy, a humanoid shape woven from threads of light and sound. It floated down the corridor toward you. Its form shimmered with a dozen different colors. It had no face, no eyes to see you with. But it sensed you. It radiated a feeling of confusion, of disbelief. It drifted closer. Its luminous form began to flicker as it entered your null field. The edges of its body started to fray. The threads of light and sound that held it together were unraveling. The Krell raised a shimmering arm. It projected a focused tone at you. Not a weapon, a question, a note of inquiry. The sound hit your shield and dissolved into nothing. The being recoiled. A wave of panic washed over you, a feeling, not a sound. It tried again. A chord of authority, a demand. It too was consumed by your silence. The Krell began to destabilize. Its colors faded, its form lost cohesion. It was coming apart, dying, because it could not comprehend a universe without vibration. You felt a pang of something, not pity, not yet, but understanding. This was their existence, to be made of music, and you were a force that unmade music. You walked past the dissolving creature, leaving it to fade into a quiet shower of dust. Your passage through the ship was a silent plague. Every Krell you encountered suffered the same fate. They approached you out of curiosity or aggression. They met your silence, and they were undone. It was a terribly efficient weapon. Your very existence was lethal to them. You were a ghost in their machine. Your passage an expanding void of absolute terror. They had no defense. How do you fight nothing? How do you attack a target that is defined by its perfect absence of energy? You reached a large circular chamber. In the center, a massive crystal pulsed with a steady, deep rhythm. It was the ship's secondary power core, or perhaps its heart. Dozens of Krell floated around it, tending to it, maintaining its perfect harmony. They all turned to face you as you entered, an entire room of luminous beings. Their collective fear was a physical blow, a wave of cold dread that washed over you. For the first time, you felt a tremor of uncertainty. There were so many. They did not attack. They simply watched, as your silence spread into the room. The deep hum of the central crystal began to falter. The light within it flickered. The chamber grew darker, quieter. This was not just killing them. This was killing their world, erasing their culture, unmaking their very reality. The weight of your actions began to settle upon you. But the image of a broken earth flashed in your mind. The choice had already been made. You walked toward the center of the room. The Krell parted before you, a silent, terrified audience. You placed your hand on the great crystal. It felt like cool glass. Under your palm, the rhythmic pulse stopped completely. The light inside died. The chamber plunged into darkness, a darkness filled with your profound silence. The Krell began to drift away, their forms dissolving faster now, fleeing from the terrifying stillness you had brought to their sacred space. You had to keep moving. The prime canter was still ahead, in the heart of the ship. You followed the main energy conduit, a river of light that was now flickering and unstable. Your presence was crippling the entire vessel. You came to a massive doorway. It was sealed, not with light, but with a complex sonic lock, a pattern of resonating frequencies that formed an impenetrable barrier. It was their ultimate security, a door that only opened to the perfect song. You stood before it. Your silence washed over the lock. The intricate frequencies wavered. They flattened. The perfect song was muted, erased. The barrier dissolved into nothing. The door slid open. Beyond it lay a new challenge. The path was guarded. A creature stood in the center of the next chamber. It was different from the other Krell. It was not luminous. It was a solid, shifting thing, a being made of pure, solidified vibration, a sonic guardian. It took the shape of a great wolf, forged from resonating crystal. Its eyes burned with a cold, blue light. It let out a silent roar, a shockwave of force that you felt ripple through the floor. This was a creature designed to fight in a vacuum. A being that understood silence was not emptiness. The guardian lunged. Its crystalline claws were honed to a razor's edge. They were designed to shred hulls, to tear through armor, It moved with impossible speed, a blur of sharp angles and deadly intent. It swiped at you. The claws entered your null field, and they stopped, not with a crash, but with a gentle fizzle. The solidified vibration of its arm lost its integrity. The crystal crumbled into fine, gray dust. The guardian stared at its now missing limb, a look of impossible confusion on its bestial face. It had never known failure. It was the unmaking fist of the Krell, a guardian of absolute power. And you had just erased part of it with your mere presence. It backed away. A low growl rumbled in its chest, a vibration of pure hatred. You did not move. You simply stood there, a small, silent figure in a vast, alien ship. Your shield was absolute. Your weapon was passive. All you had to do was be yourself. The Sonic Guardian gathered its power. Its entire body began to resonate. It was building to a final, desperate attack. A focused blast of its own life force. A wave of physical reality meant to overwhelm your shield. The air grew thick. The floor buckled under the pressure. The very space around the Guardian seemed to warp. It unleashed its attack. A wave of shimmering, distorted reality shot toward you. It hit your silence. And for the first time, you felt a strain, a pushing sensation against your shield, as if the universe itself was trying to assert its noisy nature against your quiet rebellion. But the shield held. The Guardian's wave was consumed, and the creature paid the price. The feedback loop was catastrophic. The energy it had unleashed, with nothing to push against, recoiled upon itself. Cracks appeared all over its crystalline body. It began to fall apart. Not into dust this time, but into larger shards of silent, inert crystal. The blue light in its eyes faded. The magnificent, terrifying creature collapsed. A quiet cascade of shattered crystal was all that remained. You had unmade a Sonic Guardian. Without lifting a finger, you stepped over the glittering remains. The path to the central core was clear. But what you found there was not what you expected. It was not a command center. It was not a throne room. It was a library. Vast crystals floated in the chamber. Each one pulsed with a soft, silver light. They contained memories, information stored in harmonic resonance. This was their history, their culture, their soul. The Krell's central archive, the crystal memory. As you walked into the room, your silence began to erase it. The nearest crystals flickered and went dark, their songs silenced forever. A wave of profound loss washed over you, the collective sorrow of a dying history. You stopped. You could not go forward. Not like this. To destroy their leader was one thing. To erase their entire past felt wrong. A cold, hard knot of doubt formed in your stomach. Was this justice, or was this genocide? One crystal near you still glowed faintly. It had not been completely silenced. It projected a series of images into your mind, not sounds, but pure information. A story poured directly into your consciousness. You saw their home world, a magnificent gas giant, where life was music and the air was a symphony. You saw them evolve, from simple resonant frequencies to complex beings of light and sound. Their world was a paradise of harmony. Then you saw the horror. It came from the dark between galaxies, a formless screaming dread, a predator that consumed sound, an entity of absolute, hungry silence. It was a cancer in the cosmos, a monster that fed on the vibrations of life itself. The Krell fought it. They threw their grandest symphonies at it, their most powerful chords, and the entity consumed them all. It grew stronger with every note it devoured. Their world was drained of its music, left a cold, dead husk. The survivors fled, a small fleet of refugees. They traveled the void for eons, searching for a new home, a place where they could be safe, a world that was loud enough, vibrant enough, to hide them from the screaming predator that hunted them. They found Earth, rich with life, roaring with energy, a chaotic, beautiful noise. It was the perfect sanctuary, but it was occupied. The crystal memory showed you their dilemma. They did not want to destroy humanity. They saw you as children, making a glorious, unstructured noise. They wanted to assimilate you, to add your song to their own, to create a harmony so powerful it would shield them from the great silence. Their invasion was not an act of malice. It was an act of desperation. They were not conquerors. They were refugees from a far greater horror. The crystal memory showed you their terrible truth, and it showed you one more thing. An image of the predator, the cosmic horror, and it looked familiar. It was not a creature. It was a phenomenon, a field of absolute, energy-consuming stillness, a perfect null field. It was you, magnified to a star system scale. The revelation struck you like a physical blow. You stumbled back. The thing they were running from, the existential dread that had haunted them across galaxies, it was the same power that resided within you. You were their devil, their god of death, the personal embodiment of their racial doom. You looked at your hands. Were you a weapon? Or were you a monster? The last silver light in the crystal faded. Your silence had consumed it. The library was now dark. You were alone with this new, terrible knowledge. Your mission was no longer simple. The lines between right and wrong had been completely erased. A new path opened before you, a shimmering bridge of light. It led to the final chamber, the heart of the resonance prime. The prime cantor was waiting. He had seen what you had seen. He had felt his people's history die, and now he wanted to face his end. You walked the bridge. Your quiet resolve was shaken. You were not an avenging angel. You were an echo of a cosmic nightmare, a living, breathing apocalypse for the very people you were sent to destroy. The final chamber was a sphere of perfect crystal. In the center floated the prime cantor. He was magnificent, a being of pure, white light. His form was more complex, more ancient. He resonated with a power that dwarfed the other Krell. He was their king, their conductor, their soul. He did not radiate fear. As you entered his sanctum, his light did not flicker. Your silence washed against him, and he held his form. He was strong enough to resist you. For a time, he turned his featureless face toward you, and you felt his voice in your mind, not as a sound, but as a thought, clear and precise. So, this is it, he communicated. The shape of our oblivion. I had expected it to be grander. You had no way to respond. You could only stand there, a silent messenger of a doom you did not understand. I have seen your mind, the prime cantor continued. I felt you witness our history, our flight from the great silence. And now you see the irony. Our perfect shield from that horror would have been to find a world as quiet as you. Instead, we found a world of noise, and in our attempt to master it, we drew the attention of its quiet heart. He pulsed with a soft, sorrowful light. You are not it, but you are of it, a splinter of the same cosmic truth, that in the end, all songs fade, and only silence will remain. He showed you another image, a direct feed from the ship's star-borne sensors. He showed you the space between galaxies, the great nothing, and he showed you the predator, the consumer of sound, It was a vast, moving patch of darkness. It was not black like space. It was a deeper black, a hole in reality itself. Stars winked out of existence as it passed them, not consumed in fire, simply silenced, their light and energy erased. It was the universe's screaming predator, and it was moving, slowly, inexorably, towards this galactic arm. It hunts us, the cantor explained. It has always hunted us. We are the brightest song in a dark forest, and it is the thing that feeds on bright songs. Our attack on your world was to build a fortress of harmony, a symphony so loud it might deafen the beast. He turned his full attention back to you. But now we have a new problem. We have found you, a seed of the great silence, here, in our sanctuary. If we fight you, we will be unmade. If we flee, the great silence will eventually find us. We have reached our final chord. You stood before the prime cantor. The fate of 2 species was in your hands. You could complete your mission. You could place your hand on this ancient being, and your silence would snuff him out like a candle. The Krell fleet would fall. Humanity would be saved. But they would be alone and unaware of the true darkness that was coming. Or you could do something else. The choice was yours. The weight of an awful choice settled on you. You could become their final, silent end, the monster they had always feared. Or you could become their only possible salvation. You thought of Dr. Aris, his message, the promise of a quiet dawn. He had always believed your silence was more than a weapon, that it was a shield, a sanctuary, not just an absence, but a presence, a tool to be controlled. You had never tried to control it. It was simply you. But what if he was right? You looked at the prime cantor, the leader of a homeless people, haunted by a cosmic terror. You looked at the image of the great silence, the all-consuming void, and you made your choice. You did not step forward to kill him. You stayed where you were. You closed your eyes, and for the first time in your life, you focused on your silence, not as a part of you, but as something you could wield. You imagined it, the bubble of quiet that surrounded you. You felt its edges, the boundary where sound ceased to be. You pushed. You tried to expand it, to make it larger. The prime cantor watched, his light steady, waiting to see what you would do. Then you tried the opposite. You pulled. You focused all your will. You tried to shrink the bubble, to bring it in, to make the zone of silence smaller, tighter against your skin, and you felt it move. The silence receded. The deep, ambient hum of the chamber crept closer to you. The thrum of the ship's heart returned to the air around you. The prime cantor pulsed with surprise. He could feel the change. The silence that had been an unyielding wall was now malleable. You opened your eyes. You looked at your hand. You extended it. And you focused. You wrapped the silence around your hand like a glove. The rest of the room was now filled with the Krell's resonant hum. But your hand was an island of perfect quiet. You had control. You showed this to the prime cantor. You demonstrated precise control. You shaped your null field not as a weapon, but as a shield. You could choose where the silence went. You could make it a scalpel, not just a bomb. The prime cantor understood. His light flared, not with fear, but with a brilliant, explosive hope. You can teach us. His thoughts poured into your mind. You are not the echo of the predator. You are its opposite. It is a mindless hunger. You are a thinking, feeling silence. You are the answer. The Great Silence was a cancer. But the cure for a cancer is often a targeted poison, a controlled dose of the very thing that kills. You could teach them to create pockets of silence, to build shields of nothingness, to weave the absence of sound into their technology, to hide their song from the monster that hunts them. You could craft a sanctuary of silence. Awestruck, the Prime Cantor and his people began to understand. They were masters of vibration, of energy. But they had never considered its absence as a tool, a building material. They had seen silence only as death, a void to be feared. You showed them it was just another color in the palette of creation. The Prime Cantor lowered the ship's defenses. He sent a message to Earth, not a threat, but a plea, an offer of alliance. He broadcasted the data from the crystal memory, the story of their flight, the truth of the Great Silence. Humanity's high command was thrown into chaos. Their greatest enemy was suddenly asking for help, against a foe they could not comprehend. General Thorne watched the data stream. He saw the images of the sound-eating void. He saw your silent form standing beside the Krell leader, not as a conqueror, but as an envoy. Your mission had changed. You were no longer an assassin. You were an ambassador. The Krell began their work immediately. With your guidance, they started to experiment. They learned to shape and project null fields. Their ships, once amplifiers of sound, were refitted. They became projectors of quiet, weaving silence into their star science as a new defense. You stood on the bridge of the Resonance Prime, no longer a prisoner, but a teacher. The Krell moved around you now without fear. Their luminous forms did not dissolve. You kept your silence tight around you, a personal choice, a comfortable cloak. The Prime Cantor stood beside you. Together, you watched the star chart. The red icon of the Great Silence was still there, a creeping dread at the edge of the galaxy. But now, it did not seem so hopeless. You have given us an anthem for the void. The Cantor's thought filled your mind. A song of stillness, a defense against the dark. The war was over. A new stranger alliance was born. An alliance between the loudest and the quietest species in the known galaxy. Humanity, with its chaotic energy. And the Krell, with their perfect harmony. United against a common, silent foe. Your work on the flagship was done. It was time to go home. The Krell gave you an honor guard. A fleet of their crystalline ships escorted your small shuttle back to Earth. A sign of respect, a symbol of the new age you had begun. You returned to a world that was still healing, but it was a world full of hope. General Thorne met you on the landing pad. He did not salute. He simply looked at you, at the silent woman who had faced down an invasion, and returned with an entire new branch of science. "They are calling you the Shield," he said. His voice was low, filled with a new respect. The shield against the dark. You were no longer an outcast, no longer a mystery hidden on a silent moon. You were humanity's envoy, a bridge between two worlds. Your quiet power was now a symbol of strength, the ultimate defense against a screaming universe. You looked up at the sky. The stars seemed different now, not just distant points of light. They were a part of a grand, cosmic symphony. And you had just taught it a new note, the note of silence. The work was just beginning. The Great Silence was still coming. But for the first time, the galaxy had a way to fight back. And it was all because of a girl who had once been a curse. A girl who wore silence as a shield.